Hello there. So, let's have a look at starting a new series, I guess is the best way to do this. I'm going to play some Total War Warhammer for, I don't know, the coming Sundays. I don't know how long I'm going to be playing it for. I may even add it more to the playlist in my schedule, but at the moment we're going to stick to Sundays. This is off the vote that happened a little while ago now, but I'm finally actually going to start it. I have a little bit of time right now to do the first video, so I will. And I'm quite glad actually that I didn't start until Norska was released. I have been playing around with the sound settings. Hopefully at the very least the game is no longer doubling, though I will check the sound in this video, see if I can fix it to make the sound balance between my voice and the game a little bit different, because I know that in general the sound of the game is quite loud. So what I'm going to do basically is that for the next few weeks, I guess, I'm going to be looking at the basic starting campaign of each of the races. That's a lot of races. And also do a quick kind of rundown of each of the races as a starter to these 20-turn campaigns. Because that was basically what was voted for by the community in my Discord channel. Discord is linked below if you do want to join in. Of course, I am very late to the party when it comes to Total War Warhammer, but at least the second one is coming out soon and I will be about on time to have a look at that properly. So, it's not such a bad time to start, but it is a bit weird, I agree. Anyway, the first race that we're going to look at, of course, is the Empire. I think at the moment they're one of the hardest in the game. It says the initial challenge is normal, but overall, Empire is really hard to play as with all of the new enemies that they have. And they even get mauled quite often as the AI in the campaign, which is quite sad. You can kind of see Karl Franz doing things here. I'm going to leave that running in the background. I will actually watch this video when I do the next video, which will be the first 5 turns of the Empire campaign. But for now, let's have a look at the Empire themselves. The Empire is best on all sides, beset on all sides by enemies, but its armies are led by valiant warrior generals supplemented by arcane battle wizards. Karl Franz, the new untested emperor, must unite the Empire to fight the encroaching force of destruction. The twin-tailed comet blazes across the sky, but it is an omen. Is it an omen for good or ill? So, what we need to know about the Empire, basically, I'm going to have a look at the army before I have a look at the opening, actually. So if I just go to... No, not that. Getting ahead of myself there, sorry. If I just go to having a look at the custom battle, we have the Empire. So you've got sorry. So you've got 3 characters: Karl Franz, Volkmar the Grim, and Balthasar Gelt. I'll have a look at those 3 in a moment, but you also have extra heroes that can help you. A general, and an Archlector. Both the Archlector and the general are melee generals, lords. The main difference is that the Archlector gives better buffs to the ability to stay on the field, I'll think of the word in a minute, and they have a better defense in general, whereas the general is more a damage dealer, but he's not very good at the defensive side of damage dealing. And sorry, the music is a little bit loud in my ears, so it's confusing me a little bit. Yes. Then you have a lot of heroes, different types of mage. You can do pretty much any magic as the Empire. And you have a few battle heroes, the warrior priest and the captain. Both of them work kind of like the general and the Archlector. The warrior priest and the Archlector are pretty good defensively. The captain and the general are very offensive pieces that don't have very good defense. But the warrior priest and the Archlector do help with the morale, that's the word I'm looking for, the morale of the units around them. So that is worth remembering. I think Karl Franz is overall the best general, though Balthasar Gelt is a very good defensive general if he's matched with a lord that can do some fighting, and I've never actually used Volkmar, to be honest, so I can't say much about him. In terms of units as well, you've got a few units that are kind of key to the roster. The Great Swords are the main infantry damage dealer, and they're also armor piercing, so they're pretty good against almost anything. Just don't put them against something that's really cheap, because they will struggle. Well, they're basically not using their whiff. Halberdiers and spearmen are both good against big units and horse units. With shields, of course, they are less likely to get picked off by archers. Without shields, they're good against things like orcs, against things like undead, but they're going to struggle against elves, against chaos to an extent, because Hell Cannon could just blast through them. Swordsmen are your bread and butter piece. They're kind of useless, but for their price, to be honest, they're not that bad. And Flagellants, you throw them at something that you want to be stuck, and stuck for the entire fight, and that's what you do, and they fight until they die. You've also got the ranged weapons. You've got crossbowmen that are really useful against anything that isn't armoured. You have handgunners that are really useful against things that are armoured. The handgunners shoot in a straight line, so if somebody, friend or foe, is standing in front of them, they're going to get shot. Crossbowmen, on the other hand, can shoot over their ally's head, so keep that in mind. And the Free Company Militia, they're good for getting into the back of people and getting into melee if you really, really need them to. The Empire in general, though, they work on a hammer and anvil system, so you have a straight line of spearmen, swordsmen, and halberdiers, basically. Behind them you have some crossbowmen with artillery, and handgunners if you need them as well. And the horses basically do all of the damage, so the cavalry units are the key thing in an Empire setup. And the Empire are the only race that really play like old Total War games, where you still have the same tactics. Infantry hold the line, artillery do damage from range, missile infantry do damage from range and close up, and the cavalry come in flanks and rear to disperse the enemy. They have quite a few horse units, but they all do basically the same thing apart from the demigryphs. The demigryphs are kind of disgusting, to be honest. The main demigryphs can fight pretty much anything, and the demigryph halberdiers are better at fighting monsters, etc., and there isn't really much that can stand up against them. Whereas the Reichsguard, the Knights of the Blazing Sun, the Empire Knights, they're all good at basically taking out infantry and holding off other cavalry if they need to, or holding off monsters if they really need to. You also have missile cavalry, but to be honest, I don't use them. Never felt the need to really use them. I know that a lot of people like the grenade launcher, a lot of people like the Outriders, but I'm not a big fan of them, so I personally have no use for them. And in terms of artillery, the mortar is good for breaking up any enemy, well, that is armoured. It's good for destroying armour, but it's also good for breaking up the formation of any enemy. The cannon is good for doing straight damage, but it has to shoot in a straight line. Mortar can shoot overhead. Hellblaster volley gun is just really good for a combination of the two, actually. The rocket battery is very good for destroying formation as well, but it doesn't do a lot of damage. The Luminarch of Hish is basically a sniper rifle, and the steam tank is just, well, it's horrible. I don't personally use the steam tank. I think it's a little bit overpowered, but it's very good as an artillery, and it's very good in melee as well. It's kind of like a Cygor for the Beastmen. Anyway, the basic strategy is thus. You hold the line with your infantry, shoot things with your artillery and your archers. Missile units, that's what I want to say. And the cavalry come around and hit the flanks in the rear. That's the basic strategy against every race. Depending on which race you're fighting, depends on which unit you use, but I'll get more in detail in that if you wish, though I don't want to do a whole thing. I'm not good enough at the game, to be honest, to give you really a lot of tips about how to fight each army individually. If I ever do multiplayer battles, then I'll talk about why I'm choosing what I'm choosing. Anyway, the Empire, that's what we're going to start with. You have your three heroes, you have lords, sorry, you have your three lords. You have the faction leader himself, Emperor Karl Franz. If you want to unlock him in-game, you have to get one of the other Empire units to join you through confederation, that's the word. You need to confederate one other Empire unit in order to get Emperor Karl Franz to join you if he's not your starting lord.
By the comet.
Balthasar Gelt is not a fighter at all. He's very much a mage, and he needs to be protected at all costs. And you need to, if you want to unlock him in the campaign, you need to, I'll look at the actual building, but you need to unlock one of the top tier buildings to get him. And the same with Volkmar the Grim. He is actually basically a Luminarch if you can get that mount, if you like, for him, but generally speaking, he's also a mage that needs a lot of protection. Personally, I wouldn't choose any choice but Karl Franz to start off with Empire, just because that starting ability to fight is really useful for you, and the way I personally play, I don't confederate very quickly, so it's easier for me to get the two wizards than it is to get Karl unlocked in the campaign. In the campaign, you always start in Reichland, and your first 5 turns should always be dedicated to securing the province, Reichland. Thankfully now the AI actually starts with Reichland as a starting point. They have all of Reichland. If the AI are playing Empire, it gives them a slight advantage, though I still see them get crushed in the campaign even now. But that was a very good update from Creative Assembly, adding that. If you play as Karl Franz, he is the faction leader. He is a powerful melee fighter and leader, and he can unlock Deathclaw, a unique griffin mount capable of fighting, flight, and ferocious in combat. And Deathclaw is something else, to be honest. Karl Franz on Deathclaw is, I think, the best. Yeah, I think he's the best hero in the game. Campaign movement +5 if you use Karl Franz as your leader. He doesn't get it as an extra. If you unlock him, you only get this effect if he is your main lord. Upkeep -10 for all Reichsguard and Greatswords units, and Lord Recruit rank +2. He starts off with Halberdiers, which are pretty damn useless, to be honest, at the start of the game, Handgunners that are useful, but they're not as useful as they could be, and the Reichsguard themselves, which are incredibly useful. To give some background then, the Emperor is Karl Franz, Prince of Altdorf, the Elector Count of Reichland. Karl Franz is said to be the greatest statesman the old world has ever seen. He's also a military genius and a variant general. Valiant. I can't read today, sorry. The Emperor frequently takes personal command of his soldiers, like Sigmar, the warrior god of old, smiting enemies of the Empire with every blow. There is little doubt that Karl Franz is one of the greatest generals of his age. He stands at the forefront of the battles against those that would see his beloved realm torn asunder, and it is a responsibility that weighs heavily upon his shoulders. Yeah. As far as heroes go, the only one that I think is really a match for him is Grimgor, but the two of them are the best in the game.
I am the Supreme Patriarch.
If you choose Balthazar as your leader, then you get Powerful Law of Metal, of course. You get that whether you unlock him or whether he is your leader. And he can unlock a Flying Pegasus mount. I've never used the Flying Pegasus, to be honest, but it will give him a lot of mobility, so there's no doubt that it is a good unlock long term. If you start with him as your lord, not if you unlock him, you get armor +10 for all units, all forces. Upkeep -25 for all Battle Wizards, and Battle Wizard hero capacity +1. To be honest, apart from the armor, I don't think these are really useful upgrades for the campaign. That's one of the main reasons I don't take Balthazar. His starting units are pretty good though. He does have a unit of Greatswords, which are pretty good against literally anything on the field, though you're better off putting them against other infantry. He does have a mortar, which is the only person to start with an artillery piece. It's the worst artillery piece, arguably, but it's useful in that starting round and very good at disrupting the other humans around you and even getting rid of the orcs, the beastmen, etc. that all come after you eventually. And he has Outriders, which I've never ever used. I usually get rid of them as soon as I start. Background on Balthazar, it's long. Balthazar Geld came to Altdorf from the city of Marienburg, having bought passage on a merchant ship with gold that he had transmuted from lead ingots. He left the seaport for the Colleges of Magic before the effects wore off, and now rumours abound that the swindled sea captain has placed a rich bounty on Balthazar's head, though few would dare attempt to collect it. The transmutation of common artifacts into precious metal has always fascinated Balthazar. Driven by his obsession, he spent many years combining his knowledge of alchemy and in far-off lands with the magical lore of metal. Balthazar's fierce intelligence lent him a greater understanding of this branch of magic than any of his fellow students or tutors, and he rose quickly through the ranks of the Gold Order. Within a mere decade, Balthazar has become the Patriarch of the Golden College, the youngest wizard to ever hold a title. Balthazar's research into his new formulations of black powder even made him popular with the Imperial Engineers School, an organization that often dismisses magic as superstitious nonsense. However, during these studies, a freak explosion almost ended Balthazar's quest for knowledge forever. Somehow he survived, and from that day on, he has only ever been seen swathed in shimmering, metallic robes and wearing a golden face mask. Some say that beneath his mask his skin has turned to pure gold, while others whisper that he is horribly disfigured. For the truth of the matter is known only to Balthazar himself. It feels like himself is needed. One thing is certain, the accident only furthered his will to succeed, and his determination increased his powers to new heights. With a single gesture, Balthazar Geld can transform his enemies into lifeless golden statues to turn their bones into molten iron. With such power at his command, Balthazar has secured victory for the Empire on numerous occasions.
The instrument of Sigmar's will.
And Volkmar the Grim. He's actually a DLC, and I've never actually used him. I'm not a big fan of the Luminarch in general, and I don't know. I think he's slightly worse than Balthazar, so I'm not very big on using him. Let's have a look though. It says he's a powerful leader and melee fighter. Can't really say yes or no to that. He can unlock the War Altar of Sigmar mount, which is basically a Luminarch of Hysh, and he can unlock powerful upgrades for flatulent units. That's kind of useful, but you get that regardless whether he's starting Lord or later Lord. So Lord effects, if you start with him, you get magic item drop chance plus 10%, weapon strength plus 30 for flatulence and flatulence only, and upkeep minus 15 for flatulent units. So unless you want an entire army of flatulence, then I don't really see him as a useful starting Lord either. He starts off with some Knights of the Blazing Sun, which are a armored cavalry unit and anti-infantry. They're slightly better than the Reichsguard, but you have to pick your enemy with them. They're not really going to outfight another cavalry unit, to be honest. The Reichsguard is more likely to do that, whereas they are going to do a lot more damage to infantry units than Reichsguard do. He starts off with a Regiment of Renown, which is kind of weird, and I don't like it very much. The Tattersalls, the Flatulent Regiment of Renown, they're like normal regiments, but they also have... what, actually? What is different about them? Well, they have more people, and as you can see, they have really not a lot. They have slightly worse charge bonus for slightly less melee for, well, yeah, they have slightly less attack, slightly more defense. That's basically what they have. Okay. And a normal flatulent unit, which is really cheap to buy anyway, and they're pretty useless on their own, so it's kind of free slots in the starting army that I'd rather have different units in. So the only choice, I think, is Karl Franz to start with. Volkmar the Grim is both the leader and spiritual head of the cult of Sigmar. He is pious and foreboding. He is a pious and foreboding man dedicated to destruction of evil, whether it takes the form of chaos or the rotting darkness of unlife. He's no cleric hiding away from what he decrees, nor a priest more content with the wealth and status such as position brings. An accusation that has been justifiably levelled at Grand Theogonists in the past, Sigmar... No, that's the end of the sentence. This was an accusation... oh god, I can't read. Sigmar was a warrior in life and a god to fighters upon his ascension. To his clergy follow their lord's example, none more so than Volkmar the Grim. He's fought in countless battles both on and off the war altar of Sigmar, a mobile shrine of divine power. When Volkmar fights, the men of the Empire are encouraged by the sight of the Sigmar's holy representative smiting his foes in their midst. Cite that. As well as a warrior and pious cult leader, Volkmar is a strong ally of Karl Franz. In fact, it was their alliance that gave Franz the 3 votes he needed to beat Boris Todbringer's candidacy, thus suggesting that amidst the fire and wrath, there is a shrewdness to Volkmar, something that many in the courts of Altdorf and Middenheim do not give him credit for. However, this has agitated relations between the cult of Sigmar and Middenland, especially with the Ulrich, the religious leader of Ulrich's cult. Hence, there is a need for a strong emperor on the throne, someone with a powerful congregation of Sigmar's chosen at his side. That was all for reading once more. Okay, to finish off this video, I'm going to do the opening scene for the Empire. I am going to choose Emperor Karl Franz as my leader, and I'm going to let the old man do his little talky bit. I'll talk a little bit about the map around me, and then, well, I'll end the video there and we'll start the campaign next week.
The drums of war never cease, for the old world lies in great peril. A strong leader is needed to unite the Empire, the greatest of mankind's nations. As gods battle for the world's fate, Altdorf's walls. My charge is Karl Franz, the true wielder of Gal Maraz. But as he fights to secure his status as Emperor, will his reign strengthen the nation? Or lead it to ruin?
Alright, I'll let him do his talking as well. The main downfall with the Empire race is that they start off completely surrounded by enemies and potential enemies, so it's very important to use the diplomacy as Empire, much like dwarves, whereas with others it's not so important. But it is essential for the Empire, and you have to be careful, most importantly, how you use the diplomacy, who you make friends with, and who you keep as a potential enemy. I'll talk a little bit about that, but I'll try to give as few spoilers as possible. Though I will give some, so I'll warn you that now. If you don't want to see anything before it happens, then basically stop the video now. That's probably the best way. I'm a very big fan of this artwork as well, where the zombie looks like he's about to eat a spear. It's just very well painted. And a nice scary undead dragon in the background. Also kind of feels like it belongs in Game of Thrones though, so I don't know. I gotta do something about these loading times. I'll think of something to say in the next loading time. I'll try and account for it, because it takes a lot longer than I remember every time. And there we go. Come on, little man, say your thing.
The greenskin threat is extinguished, sire. Yet the fight to secure your rule has only just begun. The Empire is beset by civil war once more. Secessionists hostile to your election as Emperor are trying to form a breakaway province to the south. Advance, crush them, and bring the lands back to your sovereign rule. To the north, Boris Todbringer of Middenheim, a bitter rival in the recent election, is openly hostile. A clash with Todbringer and the wolves of Middenland may well be unavoidable if you wish to unify the Empire. Plan for this eventuality. The Empire has ever been besieged by foes, but you are a Prince of Altdorf. Greatness runs in your very blood. Make the Heldenhammer proud.
Alright. So the first thing I just closed was to say basically I have to have a fight with these secessionists, but I think that's clear by now. So how they play. The Empire is a fractured nation of powerful states, each controlled by loyal and devious elected counts. Unite the Empire under one ruler and protect it from the evils beyond. Return the Empire. Yeah, that's actually a typo, that's not me misreading. Return the Empire, cross out, to its former glory, either by conquest or through vassalage in diplomacy. Offices of the Empire, that's this here, boost the effects your lords can bestow, assign them to these great seats of power. The colleges of magic reside within the walls of Altdorf, enabling you to field a vast array of wizards, each with their own powerful laws of magic. Okay. Well, I'm not going to talk too much about strategy for now, because that's going to be the first 5 turns, but I do want to have a look at the starting things to consider. First of all, victory conditions. So, I always personally play for the long campaign victory, but there is a short campaign victory if you want to check it. So control all provinces of the Empire either by direct ownership or through vassals and military allies. You don't necessarily have to confederate everybody. So long as people are an ally, they still get ticked off on this victory situation. Though I will say this, at least at the start of the game, there's only a couple of allies you can really rely on. That is Talabakland, the one that's directly below us, Hawkland, and the one that is the weakest, Stirland. Though to be honest, only Hawkland and Talabakland are going to manage to survive. So those two are your key allies. They're going to keep the distance between you and some of your enemies. So keep them in mind. It's Wissenland actually, isn't it? It's not Hawkland. Sorry, Wissenland is directly below you. So Wissenland and Talabakland. I haven't played Empire in a while. Reclaim Sylvania either by direct ownership over vassals and military allies. I've honestly never allied myself with the vampire counts, but it's definitely a possibility, or if somebody else destroys them, I guess. And Eastern Sylvania and Western Sylvania, which is over here, further over here. You probably know if you've played the game before. And destroy the following factions, the vampire counts. Ensure the military presence belonging to the following factions exist only in the Chaos Waste regions. The Warriors of Chaos, the Warherd of Chaos, I think also the Nordland as well now. It's not written here, but I think the Northmen, sorry. You need to keep the Northmen out as well. And make sure that Archeon the Everchosen is sucking his thumb, not destroying cities. Key things to remember, in the first 5 turns you want to get hold of Reichland, so to defeat the secessionists, completely secessionists. You have some potential allies. Let's have a look at them. It's a good idea to make friends with Bretonnia, the Dwarves, Wissenland, and Talabakland as quickly as you possibly can. If you can make friends with Kislev as well, it's really hard, but it might be worth doing just because there's going to be a time when you're going to want to be standing alongside Kislev and fighting off waves and waves of chaos. Your main enemies eventually are the vampire counts, though starting off you have an orc faction here, there's an orc horde somewhere, a beastman horde somewhere, and in general there's going to be orcs, dwarves, Bretonnians, all sorts that are going to cause you all kinds of problems. Keep the Bretonnians themselves happy, keep the dwarves happy themselves, and keep as many of the Empire guys on your side as possible. But if you start making defensive alliances with everybody, eventually 2 of them are going to go to war, and you're going to take a really big reliability rating hit. So keep that in mind. And a few more things to take note of, I guess. You have a technology tree, it relies on buildings. They're pretty much all useful, to be honest, in Empire, and there aren't that many of them. So when you get a tree, so Rallyfield is pretty easy to get, for example, then try and get all 3 of them, just choose them in the order you find most befitting. I always personally start with the leadership boost, and then I go for the speed, and lastly I take the experience personally, but it's up to you what you think is more important for you. And just a quick faction summary then. You start off with a standard treasury and a standard income. You only have the Heir of Sigmar helping you, which are the 3 things that you started with. If you choose Balthazar, then you have the other faction effects. If you choose Volkmar, then you have his faction effects. You're at war with 4 different people. The Empire Secessionists, the people who are surrounding you. The Skull Smashers that are slightly north of you. The Skull Takers, which are a horde that are very close by. And the Beastmen that are making a beeline straight for the Empire. It will take them about 8 to 10 turns to get to you, normally. And that's about it, really. That's all I can say for now. So the Empire is the only campaign I've completed more than once. In fact, it's the new campaign I've actually fully completed. I haven't actually played the game all the way through with anything else.
Summon the Elector Counts.
Last little thing I guess I'll talk about is the building tree. So, to unlock Volkmar the Grim, you need this building. To unlock Balthazar, I don't think the building is here. It might be here though. We can have a look actually. So, Recruit Lord. The two lords that you really want to get are these. You need to unlock the Battle Wizards building, Conclave of Battle Wizards building, and you have to unlock the Temple of Sigmar, which I don't think is in Altdorf actually. This isn't the Temple of Sigmar. No, this unlocks Balthazar, sorry, and the temple is there. Okay, so this unlocks Volkmar. So these two buildings you need in order to unlock the two other legendary lords. In terms of buildings in general, this building will eventually become useless, so you're going to get rid of it, but don't get rid of it until you've captured at least all of Reichland. That's all I'll say about buildings. And the army for now is thus. You have 3 units of infantry. This one is pretty damn useless at the moment, so it might be worth getting rid of them. You have 2 units of missile troops, which are both kind of useful, but just remember these shoot overhead, these shoot in a straight line. And you have the Reichsguard that are basically going to be your hammer. And Karl himself, who is pretty good in a fight and can take on any lord who is around you at the moment. That's all I'll say about the Empire for now. Thank you for watching. If you've got this far, I will play the first 5 turns next Sunday. Thank you very much. I will see you then. Bye bye for now.